Live from our Atlanta-based headquarters, it's Couples Academy Radio with Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, where love is alive, channels of communication are open, and commitment is the name of the game. I'm Hasani Pettiford along with my beautiful wife Danielle, and we're your hosts. So jump in and we'll talk about your life and your relationships. It's a simple call at 347-324-3102. Or go online at couplesacademy.org and click questions and answers. Keep those brief and to the point, and we'll do our best to answer those questions as a part of our show today. Thank you again for joining us, and once again, that number is 347-324-3102.
Sugarloaf Mills Mall in Lawrenceville, Georgia. During our photo shoot last month, they graciously styled me offering beautiful accessories, sexy, clingy dresses, but they offer so much more: handbags, shoes, sassy tops, pants, and all kinds of prints. So that's shabby chic at Sugarloaf Mills Mall in Duluth, Georgia. Check them out.
Hey, babe, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited that we are finally officially hosting our Couples Academy radio show for all the listeners out there.
So am I.
We're going to have a great time. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, there is. There's so much to talk about, and there's so much going on. School's out. Summertime is here, and we have the kids.
Oh, God.
All
Save me now. For all those families, all those parents that have kids for the summertime, we will keep you in prayer, and hopefully you'll be able to still have a wonderful relationship during these summer months when kids are just all over you.
We should be asking them for prayer.
I think so. But listen, Couples Academy Radio, we're excited because we're committed to couples and placing them on the path to fulfillment. There's so many individuals all throughout this nation that are struggling in their relationships, struggling in their marriages, struggling even finding the right person to date, knowing who to date, how to date. So we're committed to answering all those questions and giving you advice that'll make a major impact on your life.
Absolutely right.
So what's going on in the news? What are the hot topics today?
Well, everybody is aware of the hurricane that ran through Oklahoma City. It killed at least 24 people. The tornado was about a mile and a third miles wide. It went 210 miles per hour, which is an EF5 level, which is crazy, and destroyed 2,400 homes. That's crazy. It impacted 10,000 people. So, it makes me think about, how prepared are we as families? Like, I feel like after that disaster, I feel like we are totally unprepared. Where's the family plan for evacuation in a fire, or if there is some type of natural devastation that takes place? The other night when that storm took place, I was a little nervous, but we didn't have a plan.
It's interesting because, I grew up in New Jersey on the East Coast, and there was never an official plan that we were taught in school or even conversations that we have within our home, because the most we get is snow.
Right, but when I was younger, growing up over in Colorado, we had a plan. There was a plan for hurricanes. There was a plan for storms, snowstorms, getting snowed in. We knew what to do, so it was second nature. I think that we need to put something together for families to help them become prepared for disaster, a disaster preparedness talk, meeting, something. We need to do something like that. I mean, think about it. People get robbed every day. People are robbed. There are people that are kidnapped. There's things that happen. People need to be prepared.
And I think you're right. In September, because that's the anniversary of 9/11, and that's when the nation draws its attention to what took place in terms of the act of terrorism, we have domestic terrorism, but we also have natural disasters that impact us in a major way. So that entire month we're going to dedicate to teaching families how to really prepare for situations like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So listen, we want to start off with this letter. Every week we get calls and we get emails from individuals who are having issues in their relationship, and we want to share this wisdom with our listeners because I think that they could benefit from what's actually in these letters that come our way.
Well, our love letter this evening says, "My name is Shakira from Atlanta, Georgia. My boyfriend insists that we were made for each other. He wants to marry and start a family with me. I'm surely convinced that is never going to happen because he doesn't or can't satisfy me in bed. I was really trying not to make sex a deal breaker, but I can't take it any longer. He says that I'm part of the problem and he has never dealt with this before. That's a lie because one of his exes that I used to go to high school with told me. if we don't work out, I don't want this to be a problem for the next woman. How do I convince him to let this pride go so that he can be a successful lover?
Now, let's just start by saying that we changed the name and we typically change the city so that we don't reveal who this is coming from because we believe in total disclosure. But in terms of this issue, this is a big issue that many couples, within marriage in particular, struggle with. Oftentimes, once people say I do, the whole atmosphere of sex changes in their relationship. And so, listen, how would you address this, Danielle?
A couple of things that I think about is the fact that, first of all, we obviously don't condone sex before marriage. We waited ourselves. It wasn't easy.
It was hard.
But it was a decision that we made together.
No pun intended.
But, there's a lot of things that stick out to me in this letter, and I think that one of those things does stem from when someone has had a sexual past. They have so much to compare. And I think that might be a good place to look at, the fact that she might have had other experiences that she's comparing with his. And then on the other side, she's saying that he has a lot of pride, and so it makes me think it's possible that he thinks he's doing all right, and he has some tricks up his sleeve that maybe worked on the last chick but isn't working on her rather. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. Usually, in terms of dealing with issues with couples that are having challenges in their sexuality, you can point to a few things. Number one, as you mentioned, size. Size is an issue for some, but I think, whether you're dealing with someone who's too big, which can be painful, or too small, I think it's knowing how to use the size that you have. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of us aren't prepared or trained or have the skill sets of knowing how to use what we've got. And, there's this expression out there, the bigger the better. Well, that may not be necessarily the case. It depends upon the woman that you're dealing with.
Exactly.
And so sometimes there could be sexual incompatibility, where someone either is too big or too small or too wide or too tight. So there's a whole lot of factors regarding that.
And I also think that in addition to that, being too large or too small, either one of those can be a problem. And either way, you have to learn to compensate for those differences to cater to the person that you're with.
Right. As a married man, one thing that you can do is Google it, because there are particular positions that cater to men depending upon their size that bring stimulation and pleasure to a woman. And so it's really about educating yourself. And that kind of transitions into the next thing. I think that sex is a skill. Much like anything else, if you have issues in your communication, well, you're going to have to learn how to be a better communicator. If you have issues when it comes to trust and open and honest communication, or issues when it comes to determining roles within your home, how to delegate responsibilities, all of these things are skill sets. And one thing that we're committed to with Couples Academy is teaching people skills of what they can do to enhance their relationship, because if you don't know, you just don't know.
And how would you speak to the pride issue? Being a man, I'm sure that she has probably tried to tell him, this is not pleasing me, this is an issue. Who knows how that delivery is being made? She could be coming at him harsh and his wall goes up, or, she could be trying to do her best to talk to him how she can. What could you say to her to speak to this pride issue, not being able to speak to him?
Well, that's a very good point, because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know how she's delivering it. And, I talk about this all the time. There are two types of women out there. There are makers of men and breakers of men. And a breaker of men is an individual that knows how to tear a man down, knows how to destroy him, basically break down his ego. Not anything physically wrong with him, but her words just were like daggers that cut into that man's heart, that emasculates him. But then you have makers of men. These are women that build that man up, edify that man, and know how to deal with certain conversations in a palatable way for him to receive it. So first I would check her delivery. And then concerning men, a lot of men do have ego and pride, especially when it comes to sexuality, because as men, our identity is wrapped up in our sexuality, and it's assumed that we should know. It's assumed that we should be able to please. And unfortunately, there's a lot of lousy lovers out there because assumptions about our sexuality and our masculinity that are made. So it's important that we really deal with these issues.
That's good.
I think that we're headed into a break. So what we want to do is take a quick break and pick this up on the other side of the break and really get more into, what couples can begin to do collaboratively together to really restore this issue, and then get into some other topics.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back.
Imagine you and your spouse walking leisurely along the lakeside while watching a gorgeous sunset hand in hand. Imagine getting away from the kids, the office, the house, and the daily pressures of life that weigh you down. Imagine joining other couples at a romantic resort destination for a weekend getaway for the purpose of strengthening your marriage. Couples Academy presents our Power Couples Retreat, October 11th through 13th, as we focus on creating a super glue marriage. Space is limited and you must register with your deposit by June 15th. We have produced a beautiful brochure with the weekend's entire itinerary, which can be found on our website at coupleacademy.org, or simply call 678-467-1273. The Power Couples Retreat, October 11th through 13th, at the Windshape Resort in Rome, Georgia. Join us as we strengthen marriages this fall.
Has your relationship become stale? Do you want to put passion back in your love life? Do you wish your partner understood you better? Well, if you've been looking for an answer, your search is over. Visit couplesacademy.org. Read our blog, watch our videos, listen to our podcast, download our mobile app, take a class, attend one of our events, join a local chapter. Find out what it takes to become an expert of your own relationship, ultimately placing you on the path to fulfillment. Visit couplesacademy.org today.
And we're back to Couples Academy Radio, and we're talking about issues that affect relationships, issues that affect married couples.
I love you.
And I love you more.
So funny.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so let's get back into this. Where were we?
Well, we were talking about issues that people have in their sexuality. In this particular letter, this is a woman that is not being sexually pleased by her boyfriend. He has a desire to marry her and thinks that, they're soulmates and they should spend the rest of their life together, but for her, it's a deal breaker.
Right.
So her question is, how do I help him get over his ego?
Well, this is a major issue for her. I mean, he loves her. He wants to marry her. He wants to put a ring on it.
Yeah.
And whatever's going on in this relationship that makes it so bad, this is a deal breaker for her, and she's ready to walk away from that because of this.
Yeah. And I will say that, as we said before, there are millions of couples all over the country, both married and not, that deal with sexuality. And I think at the end of the day, it's about dealing with tough issues, in an appropriate way. More than anything else, when they both are willing to do whatever it takes, you can overcome any struggle. Anything. Matter of fact, these are things that are deal breakers within your marriage. These are things you work through if both parties are willing to do it. And it requires a man to remove his ego from the equation, because if he truly loves his woman and has a desire to please her, then he'll get help. He'll go to a urologist to find out what's going on. He'll read a book on techniques or positions. And to be honest, beyond all of that, having conversations to find out what his woman likes. I mean, I think that we need to become students of our partner. It's good that we have general relationship knowledge to know how to operate in a relationship. It's good that we have an understanding about the opposite sex, but more so than anything like that, you need to have specific knowledge about your partner, their likes, their dislikes, what pleases them, what doesn't, what turns them on, what doesn't. When you begin to know that, you get your PhD in your partner. Yeah. You've mastered it.
Yeah, I think that people just expect sex to be good right off the bat, and that's it. And it's not like that. It's just like a first kiss, You sometimes luck out with a great first kiss, and then sometimes you get this awkward, crazy first kiss that you have to work out, figure out how the person kisses, how they move, and then you get a flow. And I think that maybe if they just backed up a little bit and slowed down and started step by step with foreplay, starting there, just touching, not necessarily penetrating, and just go step by step by step, I think that they could work it out.
And that's a good point, because you know what, a lot of times our perception of sex is based upon what we see in the media. So whether we're dealing with print media, billboards, magazines, every magazine you turn to, the cover, how to give the greatest 6 steps to, blowing his mind. So you get all this information. Then you have film, you have television, you have radio, you have internet. And so everything presents such a image of sexuality that may not be consistent with the reality. You know, people who watch porn a lot, many people say that porn could be a wonderful thing to enhance your relationship, and okay, great. If that's what you do, great. But we know that statistically, a lot of men who are caught up in porn, they wind up becoming lousy lovers.
And unsatisfied.
There you go. Because when you're dealing with pornography, you're dealing with a woman pleasing a man, a woman who's hot from the very first moment. She doesn't require foreplay. She doesn't require any type of physical intimacy to get her in the mood. She's just ready to go. It's penetration. It's
triumph, victory.
I was going to get explicit, but I'm not going to do that. But the point is, when we see sexuality in that particular way and then want to bring that fictitious, fanciful type of sexuality into our relationship, it may not work. And so oftentimes our spouses feel degraded. They feel humiliated. They feel like they're toys. They feel like they're objects. And the intimacy that is necessary is not there. You can focus on technique all you want, but if you are not intimate with your partner, then you've robbed it of the experience that it should have. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense.
Yeah. So these are issues that, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but we have more information to get to. And I think this all speaks to what couples need to have in order to have fulfilling relationships. At the end of the day, at the core of it all, you have to have love. Right?
Yeah.
And love is something that perseveres. Love is something that will overcome any challenge that you have within your relationship. But the problem is, I think we don't really know what true love is.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, a lot of us fall in love and then we fall out of love. We get into relationships and then we wake up one day and we say, you know what, you're not the man that I thought you were, or you're not treating me the way, you're supposed to be treating me. And I think that we have a very inappropriate, improper definition of what love is. We've made love nothing more than an emotion, and it's more than just that. It's a commitment. It's something that you act out in your particular relationship.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to effectively love your partner, then when issues arise, there's nothing there to sustain you.
You got it.
So one thing we want to talk about, on our show over the next couple of weeks is how to truly love your partner. There's a phenomenal book that I would require or encourage every single individual to get, and the name of that book is The 5 Love Languages.
I love that book. That's one of our favorite books.
Actually, when we first started dating, before we were even married, that was one of the first books we ever read that taught us how to treat each other and love each other.
It actually taught me what my own love language was. I didn't even know what my own love language was. If you don't know your own love language, it's hard to express to your partner what you need. So it's such a phenomenal book for doing that.
It really is. And you know what? I think that the reason why we have such a great relationship is because we started off right.
Early on.
There you go.
We sure did.
The origin of a thing oftentimes determines its nature. So if it starts off right, you have the foundation for a good relationship. If it starts off wrong, you have the foundation for a bad relationship.
You got it.
And I think because we were teachable, that's what it was. And we were willing to learn, to figure out, how to make this thing work. It really worked. And in that particular book, what I find that's very interesting, there's a doctor that's quoted who did a study on infatuation or the in-love feeling. And according to the research that they conducted over several years, they found out that the average couple, even in adulterous affairs, those naughty relationships that you're not supposed to have, the average interaction between a man and a woman in terms of that in-love feeling, it dies over 2 years. So after 2 years, it fades and fizzles away. So what was natural in the beginning of the relationship will now require work. I think one of the problems is most couples don't realize that a marriage is spelled W-O-R-K because it's going to require work. And if you're not willing to put the work in, if you're not willing to give it the same attention and the same priority that you would your job, then how could you ever expect it to grow?
And don't you think that knowing that fact that after the first 2 years it falls off and you're going to require work, don't you think that helps couples to say, okay, it's not that there's anything wrong with my relationship. It's not that we're not working or we're not compatible. It's just that this is the phase that we're in now where we need to begin to put this work in play.
Right.
Doesn't that make a big difference?
It does, but I think the problem is that we've romanticized what love is and romanticize relationships, and everything has a happy ending. We turn on the television or a movie that lasts for, an hour and a half to 2 hours. They go through struggle, but they're happily ever after, and they ride off into the sunset, and everything's all good.
There's no work.
But that's not life.
Right.
And, it kind of reminds me of the movie The Best Man. I reference that movie all the time. Now, in that movie, before Lance, I believe, the football player, got married, he was out there doing his thing with all these other women, cheating on his woman, and he's playing cards with his boys the night before, and he said, marriage is the cure to promiscuity. So somehow, because he said I do, he was supposed to go through some metamorphosis and become someone brand new because now he bears the title of husband and she wife. And I think that's the mistake that we think, that marriage somehow is a problem solver. It'll fix all your issues. But marriage does not solve your problems. Marriage just magnifies the problems that you already have in your relationship. And if you're not willing to put forth the work, there are going to be problems.
That's correct, honey.
You know what? I think we're ready for another break. We'll take a break, come back on the other side of this, and get further into this discussion.
Okay.
Are you tired of your body sitting at work while your mind is on vacation? Well, let Roberts Travel Services take your body where your mind wants to go. From Tahiti for a romantic getaway to Vegas for a girl's getaway, Roberts Travel Services will take great care of you. Visit them at robertstourismservices.com or give them a call at 404-939-6638. That's 404-939-6638. And if you would like to help people see the world, make money while they do it, and receive travel perks as a travel agent, give Ms. Roberts a call at 404-939-6638. Roberts Travel Services. Let them help you see the world.
Yeah.
We're back.
Talking about love and relationships.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the 5 love languages, and I'm excited about this book because it really gives us a deep understanding of what it takes to really love your partner. Now, just to give you foundation, there are 5 love languages that exist in any relationship, and this is in no particular order, but love language number 1 is quality time. Love language number 2 is physical touch. Non-sexual physical touch, that is. Love language number 3 is the giving of gifts. Love language number 4 is acts of service. And love language number 5 are words of affirmation. And when we begin to communicate in these languages, we're meeting an emotional need in our partner. So, Danielle, what I've been married to you for 10 years, and I think I know your love language.
Don't you know my language?
I think I know your love language.
Okay.
But what would you identify as, because we all have a primary language and a secondary language, much like the languages we speak. Like, you speak English as your primary, but, when we moved to Costa Rica for that year and a half, you learned Spanish, and you learned it well.
Sí, yo hablo español ahora.
See, all I can say is, don't even get me started. But see, so that would be your secondary language.
Yeah.
So with the love languages, there's a primary love language and a secondary love language. So what would your primary and secondary love language be?
Mine would definitely be words of affirmation, my primary, words of affirmation. And that could be compliments, job well done, anything, any type of affirming, positive, verbal feedback. That's my primary. Okay. So basically, when I take the time to acknowledge you, to encourage you, to compliment you, I'm speaking life into you, and your love tank just fills up. Overflows. Okay. Yeah. So when you're not receiving that, then I'm really mean. No. That's not true, folks. No. Well, what happens is that you just start to feel unloved, and you don't know why you're feeling unloved. You can't figure out what it is. You just start to feel empty. But wait a minute. Listen. I pay the bills. We have a house that we live in. Yes. I'm working overtime. I'm doing what I have to do. I'm putting food on the table. I mean, you're not satisfied with all that I'm doing. I can't take all these complaints. I'm just so unhappy. I'm miserable. But start complimenting me. But see, as men, we believe that our responsibility as husbands and fathers is to financially provide for the family, and then it all ends. No, that's not where it all ends. It doesn't? That's not all the ingredients to your recipe. You need that secret sauce. You need that secret sauce, and that secret sauce for me is the words of affirmation.
So you mean in addition to my 9 to 5 and all the hours that I clock in overtime and how I'm sweating and just doing everything, breaking my back for the family, I got to give you more than that?
Only, the thing is that I'll be fed, I'll be clothed, I'll sleep in a nice bed and be sad and sorry and miserable.
Mean and surly. So it's important that I learn to communicate your love language.
Yes.
What would you say is your secondary love language?
It's the gift giving, and it's deep because one day we were talking, and I was talking about my father. Remember? And I think you had come back from a trip, and I was talking about how, did you bring me anything? And you were like, oh yeah, I meant to do this, but I forgot. And I said, oh man, my father, he would never come home without bringing me a gift. And I'm like, that's where that came from. That's like something that my father did and showed me love, and I received that as love, and I have that I expect a gift.
Wow, so something that you experienced in your childhood, you brought into your adulthood, and that expectation and desire is still there.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because this is an awesome concept called your family marinade. And what that is now, I don't cook, but I do eat. I watch Danielle cook, and I enjoy it.
You ain't never lie.
So oftentimes she'll cook up something, chicken, fish, meat, whatever the case may be, and she may want to switch it up. So she'll go to the supermarket, go in the seasoning section, grab a marinade. There's 1,001 different marinades, brings it home, prepares that meat, takes it out the wrapper, puts it in a bowl, then takes the marinade, puts it in the meat, swishes it up, and then puts it in the refrigerator overnight so that marinade can soak and saturate into the meat. Then the very next day, she comes home from work, she takes it out, she gets prepared, takes the pan out, turn on the stove, and then takes the meat that has been soaked and saturated in that marinade, puts it on the pan, allows the flame, the heat, the pressure of that flame to hit the pan, and it brings out all of the natural juices and the flavors of the marinade soaked into that chicken. Well, guess what, folks? Just as you can have marinade in meats when you cook, we all have a family marinade where we've been soaked and saturated into certain customs and traditions and behaviors and worldviews that we bring into our adult relationships. And if we are aware of that, then we can know what good to take and what bad to leave behind. But we all are products of our household, of our family.
I like how you break that down. Yeah,
so,
that's true. And not everything's going to be positive, too, when you think about it, because there's a lot of negative marinade going on. That's the stuff that you want to scoop up and get out of there.
Yes. Yeah, some people don't know how to communicate. Some people are just nasty. Some people, you just never know the type of mess that people bring into relationships from their household. But in this particular case, the giving of gifts, that's something that Dad did for you, and so that's something that you expect me to do for you as well.
It's just a natural thing. It's part of my love language. But you know what? If I had never read that book, I would have never known that.
Yes.
That's what I think is so powerful about that book. It helps you to understand yourself and helps your partner to understand you as well.
And that's why we want to really take our time over the next couple of weeks, and teach this thing, because if you don't know what the problem is but feel like there's something missing, something wrong, but you can't put your finger on it, then you're dealing with an issue that will never be resolved or satisfied in your relationship. And that's why Couples Academy is here to teach you those very things.
Wait, I want you to share a little bit about your love languages.
Oh, you want to put my stuff on Front Street?
That'd be nice.
Well, my love language, there's two. Obviously, physical touch, right? Now, I understand it says non-sexual, but I want the sexual touch.
That's the truth.
All right, but so that's just a given.
Okay.
You know that, and we can talk about this after this radio show. But the second thing is acts of service. Okay. Acts of service is really important to me.
Yes, indeed.
So, for instance, I've run a successful business with you since we've been together for 10 years, and it requires a lot of work, a lot of detail, a lot of staying up in the wee hours of the morning and really making it happen. And if you had the 9-to-5 mentality, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not my mentality. There is no 9-to-5 with what I do. But because we kind of flow together and I'm able to count on you and depend on you and go to you as a source for help, it really speaks to me. I feel loved in that situation.
Well, I never heard you talk about that aspect of it from that for that love language, but I appreciate hearing that. But I think about times when I've done things like the time when I detailed the car.
Talk about it.
That made a big difference to you.
That blew my mind.
Well, one time, when he was, I think you were out of town, I basically went into the car and hand detailed it myself, wiped down the dashboard, the windows, the grill, everything. It was totally detailed, vacuum cleaned, scrubbed, rubbed, everything you could think of. And when I came to pick you up in your car, were you blown away?
I was blown away.
Was that an act of service?
It was an act of service. You have to understand, we have 4 beautiful children, but 4 children, right? Yeah. 8, 7, 5, 3, whatever the case. And you know what? Everywhere they go, it turns into a tornado. Yeah. So the fact that she took the time and cleaned that vehicle out and made it, because I like a clean house, a clean car. That just speaks life to me. So I felt loved. Even though she cleaned the car is an extension of her love for me. And I felt that love, and so it was really, really, really awesome. There's so much that we're going to be talking about. We just wanted to give people a taste, a sample of what Couples Academy Radio is really all about. And so we encourage you to tune in every single Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We want you to get around your radio or around your computer with your spouse, with your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever the case may be, and tune in, take notes. If there are questions that you have that you want answers to, feel free to go to couplesacademy.org. We have a question and answer section. You can put your name and your email and your question there, and we will honor and respect your privacy. We won't reveal who you are, but we will reveal the situation and get answers to you as quickly as possible. Listen, Couples Academy, we're more than a radio show. We're actually an organization. We have chapters that are going to be popping up all over the country in September. So many couples that want to get together and have conversations like this that really enhance their relationship. We have events coming up, right, Danielle?
Yes, we do.
We have a whole lot of events coming up. So we want you to go to couplesacademy.org, find out what we're doing, and tune in on a weekly basis. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we will see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye, y'all.
Take care.
Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.